We are outside of Sacred Heart Church right here in downtown El Paso, really close to the border. Now, the reason that we're here is because over the last few weeks, there have been hundreds and hundreds of migrants that have wrapped around the church. Let me show you this alley. There's just a few migrants. So far, what we've seen is really a continuation of what we've observed yesterday and days prior to Title 42 expiring. They were handcuffed. They had their hands behind their back, whereas a different group of migrants that I saw earlier in the morning were not. It was women and children. He really enjoyed that back and forth with Hannity. And I said, Governor, 70% of Americans do not want Joe Biden to run. You say you don't want to run, yet here you are launching a PAC. You just proposed this 28th Amendment. And you say you want to, continue to focus on what's happening in California, but why do all these things that are outside the governorship if you're genuinely not interested? And here was his response. The State of the State address has traditionally been a speech that governors give to the legislature, and that's when they lay out their vision and priorities for the year. But this year, the governors skipped tradition and took the show on the road. I think 2019 was the only time he did things in the traditional way, because 2020, you've talked about it, he stuck to one subject, homelessness. 2021, it was Dodger Stadium. Last year, it was the Natural Resources Agency building in Sacramento because it's bigger. He doesn't have to read that small teleprompter that he doesn't like. By far the quickest remarks that he's made during the last week, and very different energy. I've been chasing the governor in his final stretch of urging voters to vote no on this recall. A Republican hasn't been state controller since the 70s, but you mentioned that big endorsement from the LA Times. They usually go for more progressive candidates, but they said he was the most independent candidate to the party in power.
I get it. It's hard for
Governor Gavin Newsom's visit to SoCal included a stop in Long Beach where he met with Leanne Cruz and Shawnee Goins. Both women experienced homelessness and lived at MacArthur Park for several years. Shawnee ended up on the streets after separating from her husband of 22 years.
I lost everything, even my children at one point.
The Long Beach resident says the city helped her relocate to a nearby hotel.
Back in the days when they said shelter, it was really the actual shelter, Now, these days, when they say shelter, it's your own little room, motel room, but to get you ready for your housing.
MacArthur Park is one of the sites that took part in the state's encampment resolution program that relocates people like Shawnee into supportive housing. Long Beach received $1.3 million last year to fight homelessness. Newsom announced nearly $200 million more will be distributed for similar efforts in 22 cities.
I really feel confident this flywheel effect. We're going to start seeing the results of these investments.
When it comes to homelessness spending, Newsom says clearing encampments has been a top priority. He set aside $750 million in the budget to do so. At the local level, LA, Sacramento, and other cities have banned homeless encampments near schools and other sensitive areas. At the statewide level, that effort failed this year in the legislature. Is that something that you would like to see?
I think you got to customize solutions at the local level.
Republican State Senator Brian Jones's bill, which had bipartisan support, would have banned encampments near schools, parks, and libraries. It would have also required officers to give a 72-hour notice before a sweep and provide a list of sleeping alternatives.
Just having bans without the support is just whack-a-mole. You're not solving anything. You're just moving things around. I think what makes this encampment...
The legislation would have provided support, but Democrats in the Public Safety Committee rejected it.
We have $15.3 billion of support. We want to support local determination as it relates to strategies and solutions.
He points to strategies like the one Long Beach has taken, where Leanne and Shawnee worked with the counselor to find an alternative to the encampment.
This is a perfect example where you had the encampment, but we had the funding to resolve the encampment issues, to get 37 of the 40 people into housing and get back on their feet. So that's the approach, that's the strategy. One size fits all, I completely reject one size fits all.
As for Shawnee,
and this right here gave me back hope,
Hope she says she needed to rebuild her life after hitting rock bottom. As Title 42 nears its end, so does a months-long journey Maribel Gonzalez and her two kids have endured since they started making their way to the U.S. last August. Maribel explains they left Venezuela after the country's economic collapse.
Yo llegué al Paso y me entregué el mismo día.
I turned myself in as soon as I got to El Paso, she says. Maribel adds she was detained for 2 days and then processed by immigration officers who approved the necessary paperwork for them to go to Denver, where their sponsor lives.
Yo no vine a que el gobierno me mantuviera, no vine a ser una carga para el gobierno.
I didn't come here for government handouts. I came here to work and to provide a better life for my kids, she noted.
Cansada, feliz porque ya voy a llegar.
Her 11-year-old daughter says, I'm tired, but also happy because we're almost to our final destination and I'll finally be able to rest and eat well. While this family is one step closer to the end of a dangerous trek, the same can't be said for a lot of the migrants whose future is more uncertain.
Migrant community tend to believe that by the end of Title 42, the border is going to be open. That is not the case. We will be enforcing Title 8, which has consequences, legal consequences, and a 5-year ban for those that are trying to cross the border illegally.
On Tuesday, El Paso City officials gave us a tour of a vacant middle school that's been converted into an emergency shelter capable of housing 1,000 migrants. The temporary space will be for migrants that have been processed by immigration officers and are waiting to get to the cities where their sponsors live. As for Maribel and her children,
Quiero entrar a la escuela.
I want to go back to school, said the 11-year-old, who was ecstatic after they were able to buy bus tickets to go to Denver. While Maribel says the last year has been the most challenging time in her life, she recognizes many have it worse, as thousands face the risk of deportation due to an immigration system she says is broken and inhumane.